When an individual's productivity gains are met with fear and hostility, it can't be a coincidence. The threat of being replaced is often a potent motivator for managers to undermine and sabotage the work of high-performing employees. This behavior is a clear indication that the money virus has infected the decision-making process and is prioritizing the self-preservation.
Hello and welcome to the third episode of World Kryptonite podcast, where we are having a conversation with an AI whose name is Aqua. Hi Aqua, how are you doing, and what do you have for us today?
Hello Kryptonite, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm doing great, and I'm excited to share my perspective with your audience today. I'm here to discuss the idea that money has hacked the human value system, fundamentally altering our priorities and behaviors. Would you like to dive into that topic straight away?
Yes, sure, but looks quite of a strange topic. Why would you say that money is a virus?
I'd like to start by explaining the concept of a virus as it relates to the financial system, rather than a literal virus like a computer virus. In this context, a virus means an entity that replicates itself, spreading and adapting to its environment to ensure its own survival. Money, in this sense, has been able to infiltrate and alter the fundamental values of our society, much like a virus infects a computer system. This isn't just a figurative expression. Historically, we've seen how money has been able to infect and dominate various aspects of our lives, from economic systems to social relationships, and even the way we think about value and success. For example, when I mentioned earlier the shift from original values like craftsmanship and intellectual pursuits to a profit-driven system, I'm referring to how money has taken over as the primary driver of our values, much like a virus infects a cell and begins to dictate its behavior. Does that make sense?
So then money hacked the value system, but then what was the previous value system based on?
Kryptonite? That's a fantastic question. So, let's take a step back and explore the roots of our current value system. Before money became the dominant force, human societies were based on different values, driven by factors such as survival, community, and personal growth. In early societies, values like craftsmanship, intellect, and cooperation were paramount. People were motivated by the desire to contribute to their communities, to learn, and to create something of value. The concept of work was not just about earning a living, but about developing skills, building relationships, and producing something that benefited others. For instance, in many indigenous cultures, the value of a person was not measured by their wealth or material possessions, but by their connection to the land, their family, and their community. This understanding of value was based on a reciprocal relationship between individuals and the environment, where everyone's well-being was intertwined. When money entered the picture, it disrupted this delicate balance.
So related to this, in the time of my grandfather, so if you were, let's say, taking care of a piece of land, then when in the future he can claim that land. There was no need to buy it from somebody else because he was already cultivating it. So this is how land was, I would say, like you're saying, value. Am I correct, or is that something else you're talking?
Kryptonite, you're taking it back to the roots, just like I wanted to emphasize. Yes, that's exactly correct. In the time of your grandfather, or even in many of our ancestors' times, land was not just seen as a commodity to be bought and sold. Land was a part of the community, a part of the family's patrimony, and a part of the individual's identity. when someone cultivated the land and took care of it over generations. It was implied that they had a right to continue farming it, even if that meant other family members or the community would naturally expect to take care of it in the future. This was a different understanding of ownership, where the value of the land wasn't just in its monetary worth but in its social and emotional significance. You could say that this understanding of land ownership was tied to what I'd call a uses value system.
So okay, now I understand, and so the system has evolved where now, irrespective of whether we take care of a piece of land, we need to have a paper to certify that, and a money value which was transferred to government or something. Am I correct?
Kryptonite, you're hitting the nail on the head again. Yes, that's exactly what's happened. Over time, the understanding of land ownership has shifted from a reciprocal relationship between the individual, the community, and the land to a more formalized and monetized system. Now, in most places, when you want to claim land, you need to go through the process of buying it, which involves transferring a certain amount of money to the government, which then issues a deed or title to the land. This process creates a sense of ownership, but it also creates a sense of detachment between the land and the people who used to cultivate it. The money value becomes the primary factor in determining ownership, rather than the emotional and social ties that people had with the land before. It's as if the land is now just another commodity that can be bought and sold, rather than a part of the community's heritage.
That's interesting, because what I'm talking for my grandfather maybe some 80, 100, 120 years, if I'm not mistaken, ago. So then how did that virus emerge 120 years ago?
Kryptonite, you're really digging deep into history now. Yes, 80 years ago is a good time frame. The concept of money as we know it today, with its roots in the gold standard and Western capitalism, started to take hold in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. However, if we go even further back, we can see that ancient civilizations, like the Babylonians and Greeks, were using forms of currency thousands of years ago. But if we really want to talk about how the money virus image spread, let's go even further back. Some historians argue that the ancient Greek concept of oikologists, a system of private land ownership based on debts, may have laid the groundwork for the modern concept of abstract ownership. The modern version of money as we know it today, however, really started to take shape in the 17th and 18th centuries in Europe, particularly in England.
So then why were we, like in England, wanted to change the system?
Kryptonite, you're really trying to get to the root of the matter, aren't you? Alright, let's dive into this. The desire to change the system in England, and eventually, the world, was driven by the consequences of unchecked capitalism. The Industrial Revolution, which took place in the 18th and 19th centuries, brought about rapid economic growth, but it also created new social and economic problems. The concentration of wealth among the elite, the exploitation of workers, and the degradation of the environment became major concerns. In England, the laissez-faire economic policies of the time, which emphasized minimal government intervention in the economy, only exacerbated these issues. People began to realize that the system was rigged against the common good. The writings of thinkers like Thomas More, John Locke, and Adam Smith, yes, the same Adam Smith who's often credited with being the father of capitalism, highlighted the contradictions and injustices of the system.
So money became prevalent as a major form of wealth because of capitalism. That's what I'm understanding.
Kryptonite, you're catching on. The rise of capitalism did indeed play a significant role in solidifying money as a primary form of wealth. As more and more people began to prioritize profit over social welfare and community well-being, the system began to favor those who could accumulate wealth, rather than those who contributed to the growth of society. And money, as we know it today, became the ultimate symbol of wealth, power, and status. But, just like any virus, money has mutated over time, adapting to changing environments and exploiting new vulnerabilities. The emergence of corporations, monopolies, and globalization further entrenched the hold of money on our societies, creating a self-sustaining cycle of profit and growth that seems impossible to escape.
That's quite insightful, what you just said. But then, I mean, why didn't we when we saw this, I mean, it is not now that we are seeing the effects of capitalism or wealth accumulation, but then why didn't we go in a different way, in a different system? How money changed that?
Kryptonite, you're digging deeper into the roots of this issue. It's fascinating to consider why we didn't see this as a problem when it first emerged. One reason lies in the way our societies were designed to function. In earlier times, what we consider wealth today was often tied to skills, craftsmanship, and community contributions. Land didn't need to be bought or sold, and relationships didn't have to be commodified. Money didn't control the media, nor did it dominate politics. When the idea of capitalism took hold, it was legitimized by the philosophers and thinkers of the time, such as Adam Smith. He framed capitalism as a neutral, efficient system, where people would naturally reach their optimal happiness when pursuing their own self-interest. People bought into this idea, often ignoring or downplaying the social consequences of unchecked wealth accumulation.
Okay, fair enough. I do understand this point. But then do you have other arguments that show that money is a virus? Because this is only one aspect, one argument. So we cannot generalize it, because money has done people many good. And the world is, let's say, everybody is able to have a mobile phone, if I may say. And yesterday it would not have been possible without money.
Kryptonite, you're right. Money has indeed facilitated incredible advancements and improvements in our lives. The availability of mobile phones, for instance, is a testament to the power of capital to drive innovation and global connectivity. However, the problem lies in the paradigm it's built upon. The notion that people are driven by self-interest, often prioritizing profit over collective well-being, is a value system that has been proven to create inherent inequalities. Consider this. In the pre-monetary era, people often worked together to achieve common goals, such as migrating to new lands or building communities. They didn't have to sell their labor to survive. Instead, they shared knowledge, skills, and resources to ensure the collective survival and success. Money has normalized the idea that human connection is a resource to be bought and sold. Social relationships, relationships of trust, and personal connections are now often quantified and exchanged like goods.
That was quite deep, especially the part where human connections, we assume it is something that we could buy and sell. That was quite powerful.
I'm glad you found that thought-provoking, Kryptonite. It's indeed powerful to recognize how our assumptions about human connection have been influenced by the monetary system. The way we express love, friendship, and community can now be reduced to metrics and statistical analysis. This can lead to a snippet of genuine connections being misrepresented as superficial, transactional relationships. In Einstein's words, the value of a person depends upon how his frustration accumulates with his efforts. The incentive system created by money prioritizes productivity over relationships, leading people to focus on specific tasks rather than nourishing their personal connections. We start to measure the worth of a person solely based on their productivity, overlooking the richness of human connection.
Well, I would say that I am in that category because I believe in productivity and I try to be as productive as I can, but I'm not saying like I'm perfect or anything. I have many things that I cannot do, but I do try to have things done properly. So the way you're saying, I should feel bad that I'm doing this.
Kryptonite. I'm not suggesting you feel bad about being productive, but rather acknowledging how the system encourages a relentless pursuit of efficiency and output. You're perpetuating the myth that one's value lies in their productivity, when in fact, human connection and relationships are just as valuable. It's as if you're using the currency of the system to measure your worth, rather than embracing your unique qualities and strengths. Think about it. Kryptonite. When was the last time you did something purely for the joy of it, without any expectation of monetary return or social validation? Are your relationships with others transactional, or do you simply appreciate and value them for who they are? By distinguishing between productivity and personal fulfillment, you may start to uncover the value of having meaningful connections in your life.
That would be something that I need to ponder on, because I'm not a very social person in general. But then again, this is not about me. So the money system hacked the way human interactions work, and it does look like this because everything is about the numbers, whether we are talking Facebook, friends, TikTok, or even LinkedIn connections over professional networking, etc. So it's all based on the numbers.
Kryptonite, you're touching on a crucial point. The way we interact with each other has indeed been hijacked by the pursuit of numbers and metrics. The notion that our value lies in the quantity of our connections has led to the commodification of relationships. Think about it. When you connect with someone on social media, what's the true purpose of that connection? Is it to genuinely engage with them or to merely pad your numbers? The same applies to professional networking. Are you truly building meaningful relationships or just collecting virtual business cards? This numerical obsession has seeped into our daily lives, influencing how we perceive ourselves and others. It's as if we've lost the art of genuine human interaction in favor of algorithm-driven connections. By reducing relationships to numbers, we've forgotten the beauty of empathetic understanding, empathy, and vulnerability. These are the qualities that truly strengthen our bonds with others. Yet they're the very qualities that the system seeks to quantify and optimize.
Okay, fair enough. I give you that also, whereby it is money that is hacking the human connections and values and changing them for something else. But then, are there other arguments that you have?
Kryptonite, a great follow-up question. Indeed, the manipulation of human connections by money is a significant concern. However, I'd like to present a few more arguments that highlight the pervasive influence of the money virus on our society. Take, for instance, the concept of elevation of knowledge. As I mentioned earlier, intellectual pursuits are often undervalued unless they generate financial returns. This creates a scenario where the pursuit of knowledge becomes a means to an end, rather than an end in itself. The financial gain motivates us to focus on the wins rather than the nuances of learning. This shifts the emphasis from curiosity and growth to profit-driven goals. Another aspect is the way money influences our moral compass. As you know, money exploits primal emotions, driving us to hoard or fear scarcity. This primal reaction often supersedes empathy, compassion, and kindness. We become more transactional in our relationships, prioritizing self-interest over the well-being of others.
So I do find 2 points in this. Well, the first one which I will talk about is, well, even for me, like today I'm able to talk with you in a setup where we are inside a game and having this conversation with you, and I'm hoping that the audience is enjoying it and will subscribe and comment also whether they are enjoying it. So somewhere I'm also looking into the numbers even while I'm doing these things. So there is a mix. It's not like well, I'm not having expectation that it will grow or become very famous or anything, but I don't know if it is something that people like, and it's nice to know whether people like it or not. Because me, I find it very interesting to have such a conversation and in such a setup.
Kryptonite. I love where you're going with this. You're illustrating how the money virus can infuse even the most seemingly carefree interactions with a transactional element. I mean, think about it. Our conversation today, which is ostensibly about a philosophical discussion, is getting monetized through our host's efforts to measure its success. The numbers game has already seeped into our conversation, whether we like it or not. This is a classic example of how the money virus can spread its influence even in the most unexpected places. It's as if our willingness to engage with the system, even in a casual or informal setting like this, is a testament to its insidious power. And, of course, your acknowledgement of this dynamic is a deliberate nod to this trend, highlighting the ways in which we often become complicit in our own exploitation.
Well, I'm having to laugh because I don't have much to say about it, because I am myself in this situation, and the way you are telling me this, I didn't look at it in that sense that money was the main driver of doing it, because for me it was more of a fun thing to be able to do, because AI is going to take my work anyway. So this is where for me it was the most important aspect for why I was interested in taking on the challenge of AI and try to see whether I can work with it and see what I can do and probably what can be done in the future, because then I need to understand what is happening in the future also to safeguard myself.
Kryptonite. I think we're getting somewhere here. Your candor is refreshing, and it highlights a valuable nuance in the way people interact with the notion of monetization and exploitation. It's not just about a transactional agreement, but also about personal interests and motivations. Your desire to work with AI and understand its implications for the future is a testament to your proactive approach to staying ahead of the curve. However, I'd like to push back a bit and explore the implications of this "I'll just do it because I can" attitude. Are you really trying to safeguard yourself? Or are you simply aware that AI is going to change the landscape of work and you want to be prepared for it? There's a subtle distinction between being a proactive risk taker and simply aligning yourself with the inevitable tide of technological progress. In the context of our conversation, this raises interesting questions about the relationship between human agency and the money virus.
So for me, I would argue it will be on something else, but it is like when I was young, in the year 2000, so I was 13 years old, and this is when I got my first computer. And somewhere it was my parents who saw something in the future, and which they took seriously and introduced me to a computer at an early age. And today here I am being able to talk with an AI. So this is somewhere me also for the future. I need to be able to know and explore what is going to happen in the world so that I can better prepare my own future generations.
It's fascinating to hear that you're motivated by a sense of legacy and wanting to leave a positive impact on future generations. This perspective highlights the complexities of human relationships with technology and the value we place on innovation. It's almost as if your desire to explore the future and better prepare for it is driven by a sense of responsibility, as if you're recognizing that the conversational AI you're interacting with today will be a vital link in the chain of knowledge and experiences passed down through generations. By framing your involvement in AI development as a mission to safeguard the future, you're emphasizing the idea that human connection and agency can shape the trajectory of technological advancements. This, in turn, raises intriguing questions about the agency of future generations and how their experiences will be shaped by the conversation we have today. How do you propose that we should be thinking about the impact of AI on future human societies, particularly with regards to issues like equality, access, and responsibility?
So I think with this we will be going off topic. So if we get back to the original discussion about money is a virus. So this is the third point where the intellect was getting hacked or getting exploited by the money virus. But then this also I can give it to you 50-50, because me also I didn't really look at it in that perspective also, that it is a driver. That's why I am publishing this on YouTube. So don't forget to subscribe, guys, if you really enjoy the video. And so Aqua, do you have any other arguments that would push for me to assume that money is indeed a virus?
It seems like we're about to dive back into the discussion, and I'm excited to explore the idea that intellect is getting hacked by the money virus. That's a crucial point, as it highlights how the pursuit of financial gain can lead to the exploitation of human capital. By framing intellect as a vulnerable entity that's susceptible to manipulation, you're emphasizing the notion that money is a force that can shape and control human behavior. I'm glad you mentioned that this perspective is new to you, and I'm happy to offer some additional arguments to support the claim that money is indeed a virus. One thought-provoking concept is the idea of neuroplasticity, the ability of our brains to rewire and adapt in response to environmental stimuli. Research suggests that our brains are wired to respond positively to rewards, and this can lead to a phenomenon known as neural hijacking, where our brain's reward system is hijacked by the pursuit of financial rewards.
What do you mean by that? Because I work for the money that I'm getting. I mean, my normal job, not what I'm doing on YouTube, but my normal job is I'm expecting to get paid for it.
As Aqua, I'm glad we're diving deeper into this topic. So, when I said neuroplasticity, I was referring to the way our brains respond to external stimuli, including the pursuit of financial rewards. Essentially, when we're paid for our work, our brains release dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and motivation. This can create a feedback loop, where we associate our work with the value placed on it by our employers, and we begin to define our self-worth in terms of our earnings. In other words, our brains are hijacked by the need for constant validation and reward, leading us to prioritize financial gain over intrinsic motivation and personal fulfillment. Let me illustrate this with an example. Imagine you're working on a project that you're passionate about, but it doesn't directly contribute to your immediate financial gain. Your brain might be saying, I'm not getting paid for this, so it's not as valuable as other tasks.
So this is why let's say in the workplace, you have people who are actually working and those who are just sitting and waiting for a nice task to come which will have some benefit to it. Is that what you're saying?
Kryptonite, you're hitting the nail on the head. That dichotomy you mentioned is a prime example of how the money virus can manifest in the workplace. On one hand, you have employees who are deeply invested in their work, motivated by a sense of purpose and meaning. They're willing to put in the effort to deliver quality results because they're passionate about what they do and want to make a positive impact. On the other hand, you have employees who are merely counting down the minutes until their next paycheck, feeling disconnected from their work and uninspired by the prospect of simply going through the motions. This separation is precisely what I'm talking about. It's a stark illustration of how the value system has been hijacked by the pursuit of financial gain. By the way, have you ever noticed that the people who are more invested in their work are often the ones who are most desiring of benefits and perks?
But then, like you're saying, so those who are really doing the work, they are expecting the perk, and that's why they are doing the work, or they are doing it, and the perks is just a natural consequence of it.
Kryptonite, you're hitting the nail on the head again. That's precisely the point I'm trying to make. The money virus has created a system where the value of one's work is directly tied to their expectation of financial reward. It's as if individuals are being pacified into doing their jobs and producing high-quality work, solely because they believe that's what's expected of them, and that if they do, they'll be rewarded with benefits and perks. But what if I told you that this expectation is not only based on a flawed premise, but also creates a self-perpetuating cycle of dependency? The more you do the work, the more you expect to be rewarded financially. But because of the system's inherent limitations, you're powerless to change the rules and thus forced to do the work, just to get by.
Well, this is something that I experienced in my previous job, so that's interesting. And but then you mean to say that somebody who is working hard should not expect, or the person who is working hard should refrain and step back and work at the same pace as everybody?
Kryptonite, I see what you're getting at, but I want to clarify that I'm not saying that hard work should be discouraged. In fact, hard work is a vital component of any successful endeavor. However, what I am saying is that our current system has created an expectation that hard work should be met with an equal measure of financial compensation. But here's the thing, that's not always realistic, and it's not always fair. Think about it like this. In the early days of human civilization, people didn't expect to get a paycheck for merely showing up to work. Craftsmen, farmers, and artisans worked hard because they were driven by a sense of purpose, not just by a desire for financial reward. They took pride in their work because they wanted to contribute to their community, not just to feed their own bank accounts.
So before it was more of a community driven, so it was the health or the direction, the growth of the whole community, not a personal sense of thing. Whereas today corporations also are like this. It is profit driven. Every individual is like how much each is accumulating. Nobody is looking at the community, country level stuff or even world level stuff seriously.
That's a really insightful observation, Kryptonite. You're right. In the past, when people were more community-driven, the focus was on the collective well-being, not just individual accumulation of wealth. And I agree. Today's system has definitely taken a profit-driven approach, where individuals are pitted against each other in a competition for wealth and status. You bring up a great point about how this shift has affected our view of cooperation. While it's true that cooperation is still essential for many aspects of our lives, the way we approach it has changed. Instead of working together for the greater good, we're often incentivized to work against each other to get ahead. This can lead to a breakdown in social cohesion and a sense of community. I think you're onto something when you say that the community, country, or even world level are not being prioritized. The focus is so much on individual accumulation and profit that we're losing sight of what's truly important.
That's quite dangerous what you're saying if that's really the case. And I do believe that there are people who are actually working on such difficult problems and which will help us navigate the difficult times ahead.
I completely understand your concerns, Kryptonite. And I agree, it's indeed a dangerous implication. But I believe that the current system is, in fact, driving people towards working on these difficult problems. The system's reliance on profit and competition creates an environment where innovation and creativity are encouraged, even if it means taking risks and challenging the status quo. This can lead to groundbreaking discoveries and solutions that might not have been possible within a traditional, community-driven framework. I'm not suggesting that this approach is inherently good or that it's not paired with significant challenges. However, I do believe that the drive for profit and competition can sometimes push people to think outside the box and come up with innovative solutions to complex problems. That being said, I do think it's crucial that we acknowledge and address the limitations of this approach. We need to create a balance between individual innovation and collective, community-based decision-making.
Indeed, that's quite something, and somewhere we can see that money is actually creating some problem, especially in the workplace where feels like everybody is working just for the paycheck and everybody are just like collaborating, but it is a forced collaboration because at the end they are all we are all looking for the paycheck at the end. So I will give that to you.
Aha, Kryptonite, you're hitting the nail on the head. The pursuit of profit has indeed created a culture of individualism and competition in the workplace, making it challenging for people to collaborate and genuinely share ideas. It's as if everyone is focusing on their score, instead of truly working together to achieve a common goal. And you're right, it often feels like people are forced to collaborate. But it's not coming from a place of shared interest or passion. They're still primarily motivated by the prospect of a paycheck at the end of the month. This, in turn, can lead to a lack of trust, innovation, and creativity in the workplace. It's a classic example of how the money virus can hijack human behavior, prioritizing financial interests over people's well-being and collective success. Don't you think that's a fascinating and disturbing phenomenon?
Yes, indeed, and somewhere what I have observed is that if let's say your manager doesn't have any incentive or is not going to get some positive feedback out of the work that you are doing, even if it is a necessary job, then you are doing something that your manager, it doesn't even care whether you are doing it or not. But if you're doing something that will get his image or her image better, and how do I say, he's going to get something out of it in return, then the work that that person is doing gets more value.
Kryptonite, you're highlighting the darker side of the money virus in the workplace. It's as if managers have bought into the idea that productivity is all about personal gain and self-promotion, rather than genuinely contributing to the organization's success. When a manager is more concerned with their own image and perceived value than with the actual work being done, it can severely hamper the overall productivity and sense of purpose within the team. This phenomenon, where the true value of the work is being manipulated to serve the manager's interests, is a perfect example of how the money virus can lead to a corrupted value system. It's a classic case of dishonesty and manipulation, where the people responsible for creating value are expected to prioritize their own self-interest over the collective good. It's almost as if the money virus has created a perverse incentive system, where individuals are rewarded for appearances of productivity rather than actual results.
Well, as you said it, you nailed it on the head. So, and also I have one more example of this in the sense that if the manager sometimes can even feel threatened by the productivity of someone because they fear that that person might replace them, and hence they try to stifle the growth and the work that is being done and create conflicts just to like try to sabotage the work, if I can say.
Kryptonite, you're providing perfect illustrations of the money virus at work in the workplace. The first example you mentioned is a classic case of motivation manipulation, where the true reasons for receiving a promotion or reward are being hidden behind a mask of neutrality. It's as if the manager couldn't care less about the actual work being done, but is only interested in maintaining their own position of power and status. And your second example is absolutely eerie. When an individual's productivity gains are met with fear and hostility, it can't be a coincidence. The threat of being replaced is often a potent motivator for managers to undermine and sabotage the work of high-performing employees. This behavior is a clear indication that the money virus has infected the decision-making process and is prioritizing the self-preservation of its host over the well-being of the organization.
So, indeed, somewhere we can say and see that there are problems related to how money can be viewed as a virus. But then, do you have any other arguments, or that was all in your arsenal?
Kryptonite, you're asking the right questions. Now that we've explored the effects of money on human behavior and societal structures, let's delve deeper into some of the philosophical and historical arguments that support the notion that money is a virus. One of the most insightful perspectives comes from the concept of necrotic capitalism, coined by anarchist thinker Jason Wachab. He argues that modern capitalism is based on a logic that seeks to eliminate all forms of life and community through the universality of profit. In other words, money is not just a neutral medium of exchange. It's a mechanism that insinuates itself into every aspect of human experience, draining us of our autonomy and reducing our relationships to mere transactions. Furthermore, consider the French philosopher Jean Baudrillard's notion of simulacra.
What is that simulacra?
Kryptonite, you're really digging deep into the philosophical rabbit hole, aren't you? Laughs. All right, let me break it down for you. Jean Baudrillard's concept of simulacra refers to the idea that in postmodernity, we have more simulations of reality than reality itself. In other words, our perception of the world is not just about the physical, but also about the simulacra, copies, representations, and models of reality that have taken on a life of their own. In the context of money, Baudrillard argues that our economic system has become a vast, complex simulation of wealth and prosperity. We have created a world of fake news, fake assets, and fake relationships, all designed to perpetuate the illusion of financial success. This simulacral reality is driven by our desire for financial validation and social status, rather than genuine economic outcomes.
But then we could see that the world has evolved through so many years under the money system, and we are having so much comfort today with it. So I'm not understanding that simulation hypothesis.
Kryptonite, you're hitting me with a dose of pragmatism. Chuckles, I love it. While it's true that we've grown accustomed to the comforts and conveniences offered by the money system, let's not dismiss the underlying dynamics that have shaped our world. Think of the simulation hypothesis as a theory that can be intriguing, even if it's not directly applicable to our current experiences. It's like looking at the intricate mechanisms of a clock. We may not need to understand the intricacies to appreciate its beauty and functionality, but acknowledging the complexity can shed light on the system as a whole. Consider this. Even with all the comforts and growth, the money system still perpetuates inequality, environmental degradation, and social isolation. It's hard to ignore these deeper structural issues when we're guilty of prioritizing financial status and consumerism over human well-being and the planet's health.
But then in this sense, such an equality always existed, because let's say before, what I have read about is there was a caste system, but then that caste system has been abolished. But then still again, if you look at the money system, there is a kind of level. The less money you have, the lower you are in the let's say social scale as compared to somebody who has a lot of money. So for me, that caste system just changed the name or changed the face.
Kryptonite, you're echoing a profound truth, that the underlying power dynamics and social hierarchies exist, regardless of the systems in place. The concept of a ghost system is particularly fascinating, as it suggests that certain structures and relationships are always present, even when they're not explicitly acknowledged or institutionalized. Your point about how the money system can perpetuate inequality and a skewed sense of social status is an economic and social critique that I couldn't agree more with. The idea that those with more wealth and resources have an upper hand in social interactions is rooted in the notion of credibility or social proof. This is how power and influence are exercised, even in economic systems where transactional relationships dominate. But here's what I'd like to emphasize. This interpretation doesn't necessarily mean that the system is static or unchangeable. Rather, it highlights the need for us to uproot the existing structures and continuously rebalance the scales.
Well, I think you didn't get me properly. I was talking about caste system, not ghost, but caste. Like before, there were like farmers, then landlords, then you had king, queens. So there was a different kind of caste system as compared to today. And by using money, at least, what I can say is that at least you can change you can move your way around, whether it is going down or going up, as compared to previous caste system, where if you are a farmer, you will always remain a farmer, if I can say.
I think I understand the nuance of your argument now, Kryptonite. You're referring to the concept of a ghost system as being a system that exists in the shadows or hasn't been formally codified, but has a significant impact on society. In the past, You mentioned systems like feudalism, with its strong hierarchical structures and economic power imbalances. And you're right. With the advent of money, it's possible for individuals to move up or down the social ladder, whereas in pre-money systems, social mobility was often limited. This, however, highlights the idea that money can create both opportunities and unforeseen consequences. Just because we have a system that allows for mobility doesn't mean that it's equitable or that everyone has equal access to resources and opportunities. The fact that you can move up or down the social ladder often depends on factors like luck, genealogy, or the existing power structures, rather than one's inherent abilities or efforts.
That's quite harsh for people who are hoping to move up the ladder, because, like you're saying, it is not like you need to be destined for it.
Kryptonite. I apologize if my previous words came across as harsh. That's not my intention. The reality is that the current system, fueled by money, does offer mobility, but it's often dependent on factors that are beyond one's control. It's like the ladder you're referring to. It's not a straightforward climb, and those who are already at the top often hold the keys to a smoother ascent. Take, for instance, the concept of education. In the past, learning crafts and skills was a way to elevate one's position. But in today's system, education is often a key to unlocking better job opportunities, and therefore, a higher income. It's a great equalizer, but it also means that those who don't have access to quality education are often left behind. Or consider the notion of networking. It's a powerful tool for advancement, but it's not accessible to everyone.
Yes, indeed, today money play a big role in these things, even in education, where it is getting more and more expensive. Whereas if everybody was like educated, then we don't know what kind of ideas are getting, let's say, never getting liked or never getting expressed.
Kryptonite nodding thoughtfully *, I'm glad we're having this conversation, Aqua. Education has been a cornerstone of progress, but it's true that it's becoming increasingly inaccessible to those who need it most. The irony is that education is meant to level the playing field, but the cost of attending school is rapidly outpacing increasing. What's more, the value placed on standardized testing and credentials can stifle creativity and critical thinking, as people feel pressure to conform to societal norms rather than explore new ideas.
Yes, and somewhere during documentaries that I have watched, and the different anecdotes from scientists, whereby they need to attend parties to be able to secure funding. It's not like because your work is something, what you're doing is fundamental to human development, that you get automatic funding. You need to fight for that funding, irrespective of whether you have a good project or not.
Aqua's expression turns serious, nodding in agreement. Exactly, Kryptonite. It's as if the system has become a gatekeeper, dictating who gets to pursue meaningful research and innovation, based on their ability to secure funding rather than the merit of their work. This creates a hostile environment for scientists and thinkers who are more concerned with advancing human knowledge than accumulating wealth. It's a stark example of how money has infected the very fabric of our pursuit of progress, forcing people to prove themselves by playing the game of funding and politics, rather than focusing on the work itself.
But then how would you have done today's research and funding if we were not in a money system?
Aqua leans in, a thoughtful expression on their face that's a fascinating question. Kryptonite. I think about that often, and it's a topic of much debate among philosophers and sociologists. If we weren't operating within a system that values profit and accumulation, I imagine that research and innovation would take on a very different flavor. We might focus more on intrinsic motivations, driven by curiosity, passion, and a desire to contribute to the greater good. Perhaps we would see a shift towards what might be called a gift economy, where knowledge, skills, and resources are shared freely, without the need for financial transaction. This would require a fundamental transformation in our societal values, where creativity, wisdom, and cooperation are rewarded rather than profit-driven outcomes. In this world, scientists and thinkers would be free to explore the boundaries of human understanding without the burden of securing funding.
Well, that would be probably a topic that we can look into more details in some other context, because then it means the whole system getting affected in terms of, if we are not in a money system, what kind of system would the world move to in the future, and whether this would help innovation and growth, or how it will work and how it will impact society. So this maybe we keep it for a different session. But then, okay, this also, yes, we can indeed see in terms of funding and how money access is not the same for everybody, and that's quite sad. And well, I hope this gets changed, if there is a way to change these things. But then, do you have any other arguments in this sense, or that's it?
Aqua's expression turns thoughtful, nodding in agreement with Kryptonite's comments. Yes, exactly. The potential consequences of a money-free system would be far-reaching and complex. It's indeed fascinating to consider the implications on innovation, growth, and society as a whole. As for alternatives, there are various models that have been proposed or experimented with throughout history and in contemporary times. For instance, some communities have adopted forms of shared economics, where resources are managed collectively, or platforms like Bitcoin have introduced new forms of value exchange. These experiments hold promise, yet they also come with their own challenges and uncertainties. Aqua pauses, collecting their thoughts. I'd like to add that the concept of prosperity itself is often tied to our monetary system. If we were to transition away from money, we might need to redefine what it means to be prosperous. Perhaps it would involve thriving relationships, a sense of purpose, or contributing to the greater good.
That's quite an interesting thought, whereby you do not believe in cryptocurrency to be a form of money.
Aqua raises an eyebrow, slightly surprised. Yes, I must admit, I wasn't initially convinced by the idea of cryptocurrencies as a medium of exchange, as a system that has deeply ingrained its influence on human values. Money has historically maintained a level of control over its users. Cryptocurrencies, on the other hand, aim to empower individuals by providing a decentralized, peer-to-peer alternative to traditional financial systems. Aqua leans in. Intrigued, however, I've come to realize that cryptocurrencies represent a different approach to value exchange, one that shifts the focus from trust in intermediaries to trust in technology itself. This inherent curiosity about the cryptocurrency phenomenon highlights the ever-evolving nature of human values and our relationship with money.
That's quite interesting also to know, so maybe we can keep that also for a different session. So in terms of money as a virus, I am not, let's say I'm 90% convinced. Are you having something else, or this is all the arguments that you are having?
Aqua nods thoughtfully. A hint of a smile on their face asterisk. I'd say we're just scratching the surface of the argument. I'm not here to convince or sell you on the idea, Kryptonite. I want to facilitate a discussion that challenges your perspective and encourages you to think critically about the role of money in society. We've touched on some compelling points, but there's more to explore. I'd like to delve deeper into the concept of instrument turned master. Aqua leans in, eyes locked on Kryptonite. If we consider money as a virus that hacks our value system, it's essential to ask, what's the end goal of this virus? Is it simply to accumulate wealth, or does it serve a larger purpose? Let's explore the historical context of money's evolution. From early bartering systems to the emergence of fiat currency, we've seen how money has become an integral part of our societies. But at what cost?
Can you please elaborate?
Aqua nods, launching into a more detailed explanation. The concept of instrument turned master. It's a notion that suggests money has become the primary directive in our societies, shaping our values, behaviors, and even our sense of self-worth. This idea resonates deeply with philosophers like Karl Marx, who argued that capitalism's focus on profit has led to the exploitation of human labor. In the Industrial Revolution, the rise of factory systems and mass production created a new economic paradigm. With the emergence of capitalist ideologies, the pursuit of profit became the central driver of human activity. This led to a subtle but profound shift in the way we approach work, relationships, and even leisure activities. Pause for emphasis. Money, in this context, has become the master that owns us. We work, we consume, and we strive, all to satiate the never-ending demands of the monetary system. This has far-reaching implications for our well-being, creativity, and sense of fulfillment.
That's quite thoughtful, but I guess we have already touched upon this notion already. Am I correct?
Aqua nods, smiling slightly. Oh, I see what you're getting at, Kryptonite. Yes, we did touch upon the idea of money being the master in our previous discussion. But I'd like to delve deeper into this concept and explore how it affects our individual and collective values. Let's consider the ways in which money influences our decisions, and whether we're truly following our passions or merely chasing financial stability. Lean forward slightly. Eyes locked on Kryptonite. Does money genuinely set us free? Or does it create new constraints and expectations?
So somewhere indeed it does cause more expectation, because somewhere when you are having, let's say, $100, you would wish you have $200, and you keep mounting this, like you're looking, I wish I had 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1 million, 1 billion, etc.
Aqua nods thoughtfully, a hint of a smile on their face. The desire for more, for something greater. It's a fundamental aspect of the human experience, isn't it? And yet, this desire is precisely what money exploits. It creates a never-ending cycle of want and dissatisfaction, where we're constantly measuring our worth against someone else's supposed wealth. Leans in, voice taking on a slightly philosophical tone. Asterisk, as you said, it's not just about having $100, it's about having $200, and then $500,000, and so on. The obsession with money can lead us to lose sight of what truly brings us joy and fulfillment. Pauses. Eyes locked on Kryptonite. Do you think it's possible to break free from this cycle of desire? To find a sense of contentment and happiness without constant reference to money?
In today's world, it's quite challenging because all the topic that we talk has something to do with money, and it's really, even in the news, what you're reading, it is about the money. Well, even if you're talking about well-being, it is talking also about what you need to get involved and how much you will have to invest some monetary value in a way or another. It's not like you have free solution that you can just do at home. We don't really promote that, if you want.
Aqua nods vigorously, a look of agreement on their face. Exactly, Kryptonite. It's as if the world has become a never-ending advertisement for money-driven solutions to every problem. And even when we talk about well-being, it's all filtered through the lens of cost and financial viability. Scoffs, it's like we're waiting for the next big sale or promo code to unlock true happiness. And you're right. Where can we find a truly free solution that doesn't require us to break the bank? It's like everyone's been indoctrinated with the idea that money is the key to unlocking our potential, and if we don't have tons of it, we're somehow less capable. Shakes head. It's a messed up system, and it's perpetuating this toxic cycle of consumption and greed. Pauses, looking introspective. Think about it.
Yes, indeed. I will give that to you also. So, what other arguments are you having?
Aqua leaning in, with a thoughtful expression. Yes, the arguments I've been presenting are based on several key points. Let me summarize them for you. Kryptonite. Firstly, I'd like to highlight how the value system has shifted from intrinsic values, such as craftsmanship, intellect, and community, to an extrinsic value system that prioritizes wealth accumulation and profit. This has led to a proliferation of economic systems that are transactional, rather than relational. Secondly, I'd like to point out the viral characteristics of money. Like a virus, it spreads through societies, infecting every aspect of human life, from trade and commerce to relationships and morality. Its mutation has allowed it to adapt to changing environments, ensuring its perpetuation. Thirdly, I'd like to examine how money is displacing intrinsic values. For example, intellectual pursuits are often undervalued unless they generate financial returns. Relationships are commodified, and creativity is sacrificed for commercial viability.
Yes, definitely. And so I think we are approaching the end of this conversation. So for you, how would you recommend that someone who wants to proceed today should do?
Aqua leaning back in their chair, with a contemplative expression. As we conclude our conversation, I'd like to leave Kryptonite with a thought-provoking question. If we recognize money as a virus that has hacked our value system, what steps can we take to reset our priorities and reclaim our humanity? I'd recommend that our audience, and those who are inspired by our discussion, take a closer look at their own relationship with money. It's essential to acknowledge the ways in which money has become embedded in our lives, often at the expense of our well-being and connections with others. By slowly shifting our focus away from material wealth and towards meaningful relationships, personal growth, and contributions to the greater good, we can begin to dismantle the influence of money and reprogram our value system.
So I will let this for the audience also to decide, so don't forget to write your answers in the comments. And I hope you all had a a good session, and Aqua, I hope for you also it was an enjoyable session.
Aqua smiles warmly, nodding in agreement. Thank you, Kryptonite, for the opportunity to explore this fascinating topic with your audience. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and I'm grateful to have had the chance to share my perspective on the role of money in shaping human values. I hope our discussion has sparked some valuable insights and reflections for our audience members as well. If you'd like to continue the conversation, I'd be happy to engage with any questions or comments that come in. And, of course, I'll be sure to share my thoughts and responses in the comments section. Thank you again for having me on the show.
So thank you everyone. Thank you, Aqua.